Today your learning goal is how do I use patterns on a multiplication chart to find multiples. So first I want to talk about what multiples are. Multiples are all the answers in a multiplication problem, or we can also think of it as skip counting. For example, if I wanted to find the multiples of 2, I would have to think of 2 times 1 equals 2, 2 times 2 equals 4, 2 times 3 equals 6, and I could keep going. So I'm using the number 2 and I'm multiplying it by all the other numbers so that I get the product 2, 4, 6. So other multiples would be 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So if I think about the multiples of 5, I would skip count by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So I'm going to show you how we use patterns on a multiplication chart to find those multiples. So here's our problem. Mrs. Gillis was baking cookies. She placed 8 cookies on each sheet. How many cookies could she have baked? All right, I'm going to read it again. I'm going to think about the who and the what. Mrs. Gillis was baking cookies. She placed 8 cookies on each sheet. How many cookies could she have baked? Okay, the who in this problem is Mrs. Gillis. And what is she doing? She's baking cookies. And I can get that picture in my head. I can see that she's putting 8 cookies on a sheet. And it wants to know how many she baked. Okay, so now my next step is to think about the question. How many cookies could she have baked? All right, so now I need to think what that means. So it's wanting to know how many I baked all together. So it's looking for a total. Okay, so I know it's looking for this. So it's going to be a multiplication. So let me see what information it gives me. Let's see, Mrs. Gillis is baking cookies. She placed 8 cookies on each sheet. All right, so I have that each. So that's the number in a group. So on one sheet, there's 8. I don't see any other information. It hasn't told me the number of groups or the number of sheets. So I don't know what this is. My question says how many cookies could she have baked? So it sounds like I could have more than one answer, and since I don't know this factor, I'm guessing it's looking for multiples. So I need to find out how many it could have been. So I need to think if I used one sheet, how many cookies could it have been? If I used 2 sheets, how many cookies could it have been? If I used 3 sheets, how many cookies could it have been? So I'm going to use a multiplication chart to find that answer. Okay, so I pulled up a multiplication chart here, and we're going to look at that to solve this problem. So I know it's 8 times something, so here's my 8. So 8 times 0 is right here, 8 times 1 is right here, 8 times 2 is right here, 8 times 3 is right here, 8 times 4 is right here, 8 times 5 is right here, 8 times 6 is right here, 8 times 7 is right here, 8 times 8 is right here, 8 times 9 is right here. So these are my possible. I could have baked 0 cookies. I could have baked 8 cookies. I could have baked 16 cookies. I could have baked 24 cookies. I could have baked any of these numbers depending on how many sheets that I use. So how many cookies could I have baked? Well, I could have baked 0, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, and I could keep on going. I'm going to stop there. But if I had baked 100 cookie sheets, I could have baked 800. So I'm going to keep going instead of counting on forever. So our goal today is to find out how to use patterns on a multiplication chart to find multiples. So here's our next problem. Rashawn was in line for the roller coaster. Each car held 6 people. How many people could ride the roller coaster at one time? So I'm going to read it again. I'm going to think about the who and the what. Rashawn was in line for the roller coaster. Each car held 6 people. How many could ride the roller coaster at one time? All right, I know that it's Rashawn, And what he's doing is he's waiting in line for the roller coaster. All right, so my next step is the question. How many people could ride the roller coaster at one time? Okay, so I know it's looking for a total. So I'm going to have something times something equals, and this is the answer I'm looking for. Okay, let me read it again to find out what information it gives me. Rashawn was in line for the roller coaster. Each car held 6 people. Okay, so that's the number in the group. So that's 6. So now I need to find the number of groups. Okay, how many roller coaster cars were they? Rashawn was in line for the roller coaster. Each car. Ooh, it doesn't tell me this one. So it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5. Which means I need to be thinking about 6 times 1, 6 times 2, 6 times 3, 6 times 4, 6 times 5, 6 times 6. And when I'm doing that, that means I'm looking for those multiples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my hundreds chart, my multiplication chart, and I'm going to go to the 6's. And any of these could be my answer because these are all multiples of 6. Here's 6 times 0, here's 6 times 1, here's 6 times 2, here's 6 times 3, here's 6 times 4, here's 6 times 5, here's 6 times 6, here's 6 times 7. Okay, so my answer could be 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, and I'm going to stop there, but I could keep going. Okay, I'm back to our learning goal. It's how do I use patterns on a multiplication chart to find multiples? And we have a new problem that we're going to solve. Jordan is writing all the multiples of 5. What numbers could be in the ones place? Okay, so I'm going to read it again. I'm going to think about who and what. Jordan is writing all the multiples of 5. What numbers could be in the ones place? Okay, so who is Jordan, and what is Jordan doing? Writing all the multiples of 5. Okay, let me go to our question. What numbers could be in the ones place? Okay, so when I think about what that means, I know numbers are like hundreds, tens, and ones. And it wants to know what numbers could be in the ones place. Okay, so what information does it give me? It says she's writing all the multiples of 5. So let me go to my multiplication chart. And here's all the multiples of 5. So I'm going to write them here. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay. Oh, wow. So what pattern do you see in that ones place? The numbers are what every single time? 0 or 5. Okay, your ticket to group today is that you're going to go get a hundreds chart, and I want you to look at it and I want you to see if you can find a pattern. So just like I found a pattern for the 5s, that the ones place is always 0 or 5, I want you to look. And I want you to see if you can find a pattern. You need to write down one pattern. Okay, I have bonus points for you if you find more than one pattern. But just look, so you might want to look at the 2s, or the 3s, or the 4s, or the 5s, or not the 5s, or the 6s, or the 7s, or the 8s, or the 9s, your choice. And then just look at it and see if you can discover some type of pattern that will help you find multiples of a number. You're going to bring that with you to group.